That's funny. All right, let's get going. All right, everybody, I'm with James Jones, and you probably don't know who James Jones is, but he has been on the podcast before. He's a good friend of mine, not from where I'm from, not from the state that I'm from, and he has been on the podcast, and the podcast, well, he called me after we did a podcast. He jumped on a live stream with me and Lucas one night, and then I put it all together and put it out to all the platforms, and I don't know, a day, 2, maybe 3 days later. I don't remember how many days. How many days was it when you called me?
You put it out on a Sunday.
Okay. And did you call me on Monday?
A Tuesday.
Okay, so you called me on Tuesday, or you text me or called me and said, hey, man, I need you to take the podcast down. Can you do that? And I was like, absolutely. Didn't know why. Had no idea, but I absolutely. And that's what we tell all of our guests every time that they come on, like, hey, for whatever reason, if once you leave or, once you do the podcast, if you need us to take it down for whatever reason, we'll do it. I mean, obviously. So yeah, I mean, and I had no idea what was about to come down. I had no clue. I just knew that he needed me to take it down. You needed me to take it down. So I took it down. And then
you want me to take over?
Oh yeah, take over.
So I was teaching at a school and I was making comments about my frustration with education, which I thought was part of my First Amendment rights, but I guess not. So what happens is we went on that podcast. I clearly made someone upset at the school. I don't know who. I can assume who, but I'm not going to say that here.
Okay. I mean, you don't have to. You can say you're pretty sure you know.
I'm pretty sure because.
But you don't have to say a name. Please don't say a name.
Yeah, I'm not going to say a name. All I'm going to say is I'm pretty sure I know who, and I'm pretty sure it was a higher up in the school district. Well, anyways, on Tuesday, I got an email, and it was just an email that said, hey, I need to see you after school. And I'm like, okay. And we had an early release or something that day. So I go in there, and he makes me sit in this chair, and I'm like, what the heck is he? It's the principal. I'm like, okay. So he makes me sit in this chair, and I walk in. And it's the secretary, him, and another assistant principal. And he's like, I need you to sign this. And I was like, okay. And he hands me this letter, and I have it right here. I've kept it. This was 22 months ago, Ben. Remember, 22 months?
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's how life goes. It doesn't seem like it's taken that, or, it's been that long, but.
Yeah. And it said, Dear James Jones, you are reassigned during work hours effective immediately. During this time, the administrator's reassignment, you are not to report to work or undertake any duties, responsibilities on the behalf of the school district, including supplemental work until notified by me. The reason for this administration reassignment is pending investigation of violation of governing board policies, and it gives you some word art like GBEA. This administrator reassignment is not discipline and does not construct adverse actions. Then it says the following procedures in terms of your administrative reassignment. And so it gives me like a list of what I cannot do, and basically says like, hey, you're on call. So go home, sit by your phone and wait. And so at this point, I'm like, and I'm trying to think what I did. And all I could think about was this podcast. I'm like, so clearly I made someone mad, and I know why I made him mad. If I made him mad, I understand why I made him mad. It's fine. And the principal that gave this to me, it was his first year being a principal. And the next year he got moved up to administration, like the district level, and he had got an executive job under the guy that I made mad. Just saying, not saying anything more than that, because it's not worth it.
So he got promoted?
Yeah.
After
1 year of being a principal. Well, anyways, we go on a reassignment, and I'm just waiting. And they call me at Thursday at, I think it was 2:30, and said, we need you at the district office at 3:15. Well,
so when you called me, you didn't know for sure?
No.
Okay. And I know we've talked about this before, but I'm going to ask questions to refresh my memory, and questions that people are going to, I'm sure that's watching or listening are going to want to know. And they're going to want to know, did you know for sure? And so you didn't have a clue. Okay.
I was coaching volleyball at the time. I was teaching, and I was like thinking, what did I do in this thing? No, nothing. Okay, so it's not that. And then I went on my social medias. I was like, okay, there's nothing here. I don't know what this is. And all I could think of was maybe I made the wrong person mad, and they typed my name in looking for something, which in the description of the podcast, it did have my name. And so I was like, that's probably how they found it. Well, anyway, so on Thursday they call me in. I called the union, the state union, and they had my back on this whole thing. And they told me like what to do. And so they scheduled a meeting for 3:15. I said, hey, you need to send the link to this guy, which is my state representative for the union. And he was in the meeting. And then I went in that meeting and they start reading like verbatim statements from that podcast. And I'm thinking to myself, like, this podcast from Oklahoma, who did I make mad? And at the end of the meeting, they said, well, we're giving you till tomorrow, Friday at 3:00 end of day to resign, or we're going to push this forward for you to be terminated through the district board policy. And I'm like, okay. And I leave. And my union rep calls me and goes, hey, you could fight this if you want, but they're just going to make your life miserable. And we're only like 2 weeks into school. So I'm like, oh boy, you know what I mean? So in the meeting, they made it fairly clear that it was going to end right there. If I resigned, they weren't going to push an issue or anything. And so I was like, okay, cool. And then that's what even my union, they're not going to report you to anywhere. It's just going to stop you. Just resign. That way you can go find another job. Because there's a lot of districts in this area, because there's the high school district and then there's a bunch of elementary districts, which I'm certified to teach in. So I was like, okay. And so then I resigned that night. The next day, I went and picked up the rest of my stuff from the school. Didn't say a word I just met the principal, walked to my office, got my stuff, walked out. Volleyball practice was going on. They saw me. It was awkward, but that's fine. I just walked out. And then I thought it was over. Well, about 10 days later, I got a letter from the state Board of Education, saying that I'm pending investigation. And I was like, what the heck? And in there, this is my teaching cert. I've got to hide it. Hang on, so you don't see the state. This is my teaching cert. And they said, hey, look at the back. And this is what they got me for. Where is it? I just read it. Engaging in conduct that was discredit the teaching profession. Because some of the comments I made, which were my own personal feelings, did discredit education. I mean, it kind of went down. I'm not going to get too much into it, but there's some things I said that could be construed, but at the same time, like, is it really hurtful that I'm saying my opinion and made it known that it was my opinion? I don't know. Well, it's not up to me. So that started. Well, at that time, before I got that letter, I applied for some places and I got offered 2 jobs. I don't know if Ben knew this, for teaching. The prison offered me a job to teach, and online school offered me a job to teach. But when that letter came, I was like, well, I'm gonna put the brakes on this, because I don't need this to continue. It's pending investigation. I don't need to go somewhere and then a month or 2 later they say we're taking teaching cert or whatever, because I didn't know what was going to happen at that point. I think that's when we talked about this a little bit, right? But the union did give me a lawyer. They did provide me a lawyer. So I had a lawyer in this whole thing. And when I sent that to the lawyer, they said, we don't know if this is going to go very far. And they said, you can fight it. There could be some wrongful termination here. There could not. It's up to you how to want to handle it. He goes, but we just have to write a response to the letter they gave me stating what I did wrong. And so he wrote that response. We went back and forth. We corrected it. I also got 22 letters of support from kids, teachers, and old principals showing that I wasn't what they're painting me as. So I had this whole thing given to the state, but then I just sat around and waited and waited. So this happened in August of 23. I didn't hear back from the state until December of 24. That's when the state came back and said, hey, we're going to give you a letter of censure and you have to take this class and you can keep your teaching cert.
But meanwhile, you had a job.
Oh yeah, we'll get there.
Okay.
We'll get there. So that's the whole thing. And I'm not going to fight it, because my current job, here's the letter they gave me about the state, about my plea agreement, basically, is the best way to put it. Our little agreement of don't say this stuff again and we're good. And I'm not going to say it. I'm not even going to say what state I live in. We'll just say Southwest. Well, anyways.
But it even has like me and LJ said.
Yeah. I sent it to Ben. Ben's read it. Ben's read everything.
There's even, they even quoted us in there. Yeah. Things that we said. It was just our response to what you said, but all of it was in good fun. But
and the State Board of Education, actually, my lawyer sent a letter to the school board's lawyer asking for the recording of what they had, and they never gave it up. And so we're not sure Like, we're not sure they actually have a recording of it because they never turned that over in evidence. So Ben might have deleted it in time. I don't know.
Well, I mean, they had a lot of words that were said, so they either wrote that down while they were, watching it, or they recorded it. But I think the reason why they probably never released it is because it would show that it was all in good fun, and
Yeah.
it went too far. They took it too far. So
Well,
they just wanted your words, and this is what he said. But they didn't want to show, in my opinion, they didn't want to show, and I'm not wrong, but they didn't want to show that we were laughing and having a good time. It was not like you were, they wanted to show you get what I'm saying. They wanted to make you out to be worse than, or make it out to be worse than what it was. Way worse.
In all honesty, I did say it
way too far.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I did say it.
You said things, but dude,
I mean, I have to own that I did say it, and people that don't know me might take it whatever way they want to take it.
and that's why that's why they wouldn't show the recording, because anybody would watch that and go, "Are you freaking kidding me?"
Well,
should he have said what he said? Maybe not, but you called us in here to, you made us think this dude is, a bad dude, and all reality we should be thankful to have him.
If I was really that bad, they wouldn't have given me a letter of censure. They would have just took my teaching cert.
Right.
But I did say it, and it kind of was unprofessional, and I shouldn't have said it. And I do feel sorry for it, and I won't do it again. I won't say those things again. And I've told you that before, haven't I, Ben? Like, I'm not going to say that stuff.
I haven't heard you say it again. Right.
Yeah. I'm not going to say it again, and I'm not going to talk bad about the school or anything like that.
Right. Yeah. The past is the past. Put it behind you, and you're.
And like I said, I moved here 2 months before. I moved from my old town to this town, which is 4 hours away, because this is where my wife's from, and we wanted to be around my wife's family. Which brings me to the next thing. When I had to
your wife is not from there, but
she's from there.
No, she's not.
When her mom's house that she grew up in is 20 minutes away, she's from here.
Absolutely not.
Yes.
No.
We can get into this later.
Okay.
Well, anyways, so at that point in time, we were renting a house. I had to resign. I had to go home and tell my wife I was resigning that day. I might have cried. I'm not gonna lie. I might have been a little upset. I felt like I let my wife down, and I called my dad and apologized. I said I embarrassed our family. I don't think you know about this stuff.
No, I don't.
And I felt really bad. And I was like, on Friday between I didn't really get out of bed, and then I went and got my stuff, came back. But on Monday I was ready to go, and that's when I started applying for jobs. And I got some things real quick. The prison was actually going to pay me a ton of money to go work at the prison. The online school, they were going to pay me. It was actually pretty decent, just to teach online. So those two options were there, and I was kind of happy. But then I got that letter from the state, and I was like, oh, put the brakes on this, because if I go take one of these jobs, then I lose my teaching cert. That's just going to look bad for me. And so I put a hold on that. And then I was sitting around and I was like, really thinking about it. And I was like, you know what? Hang on, I got to turn this fan on. I'm getting hot. I said, you know what? I've been unhappy in teaching for a couple of years now. And I think Ben's heard me be unhappy. Really, coaching was like what made me happy. But it just wasn't working for me anymore. Something I wanted to do wasn't no longer how I thought it was going to be. That's the best way I'm going to put it. I thought it was going to be this way, and it was this way. And then everything in life kind of changes and transitions as the world goes on, and nothing stays the same. So it turns up changing to kind of something that I didn't like anymore. And so this kind of was a blessing in the sky. Although I tell Ben every day he got me fired, and he hears me say, but
every day.
So at that time, I had to make a decision. And I kind of was looking at my degrees I got in undergrad and what I could do, and looking around at jobs that were in the area that weren't teaching. And I came across the Indian tribe over here. They were looking for a Parks and Rec director. And I read the qualifications, and I hit the qualifications. So I applied, and I ended up getting the job. And so then I transitioned to Parks and Rec, and I was like, okay. And I went back to school and got my MBA, my master's in business administration during that time. And so I started there. Like, I think I got my letter from the state on August 17th, and then I turned down those jobs on the 18th, and I applied on the 19th, I think, and they interviewed me the next week, and then I started 2 weeks after that. So I started my world in Parks and Rec on the Native American tribe and around here, which is cool. I remember I remember telling Ben, and Ben thought it was awesome because I just made a change, and that allowed me to, my wife to stay here. We didn't have to leave. Yeah, I still got a tainted name out there with the district I worked for, but it's okay.
Do you though?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, in honesty, I work with that district still. Some of the schools in that district, which I'll get there in a second. Why I work with them, but and they talk to me, and we have meetings, and they call me, and I help them out. So I do help the district still in my current capacity because, like I said, I was Parks and Rec director for the tribe. It was like beginning of September, and then I was actually, when I started doing Parks and Rec, I really liked it. I really enjoyed it. And it wasn't just because it was new. It was just like, I felt like I was actually doing programs for kids. And I was like, the things I thought I would be doing with teaching, that kind of like, I didn't do anymore because of how much it changed and transitioned into a different beast. And so I was doing that stuff, and I was doing it for like lower income families and things like that on the reservation. I enjoyed it. And then I made a promise to my wife beginning of January. So this is like 3-4 months in. And I said, hey, if the city ever, if the city we live in, if the job ever opened up in Parks and Rec or something in Parks and Rec that was comparable to the salary I was making on the res, I would apply. Literally 3 days later, the job opened up.
Wow.
Yeah. And so I made that promise. I had to apply. But the funny thing is, it was middle of December. I went to lunch with an advertising agency and some nonprofit people, and the city manager for the city I'm in was at that luncheon. And he goes, and we were talking. He's like, "Oh, you work for the tribe? That's cool. We need to have some partnerships and work together." I was like, "Yeah, I'm trying to do that because we're neighbors. Basically, all the kids on the res go to school in the city I'm working for, which I'm not saying the city's name, but the city I'm working for now, like those kids, there's basically the res is 4 miles away from the city, 4 or 5 miles away from the city. So it's basically they're part of the city. And so, we went to lunch. He's like, we have a partnership. And he's like, have you ever been to Somerton? I go, said it. Shoot. That's okay. He goes, he goes, have you ever been there? And I was like, yeah, I live there. And he's like, you live there? I know, I failed. That's okay though. It's only once. Maybe they won't catch it. But anyways, I go, I live there. And he goes, you live there? And I said, yeah. He goes, where? And I tell him. He's like, oh, okay. And then, like I said, I applied. And when I applied because I promised my wife. But I was like, there's no way I'm going to get that job because that job's like 10 steps up from the res. You know what I mean? And I was like, no way am I going to get this job. But I'm going to apply it because I promised my wife.
Yeah, because you were initially thinking probably I'm going to do this for a year, 2, 3 years, and then I'll have the resume built up to get that job if it were to ever come open.
Yeah.
And then 3 days later, it's like, oh gosh, okay, I'll have, limited experience and over here at this job.
Because the Parks and Rec director before me, she was there for like a year, and then she bailed and went to the city south, right on the border. And so I thought she was going to stay there forever because she was following the city manager around. Because the city manager I work for, he's actually a former Parks and Rec director for like 20 years. And so like when I applied, and so I was like, there's no way I'm going to get, when I applied, I was like, there's no way I'm going to get an interview or anything like that. And 2 weeks went on, and I was like, yeah, I'm not going to get an interview, but it's okay because I like my job. And then I get this email, and it's like, it's from Indeed, and it says, pick your time that you want to interview. And I'm like, okay, what? And I was like, so I put my time down. It was like, I left, remember we were racing. I said, I got to go to an interview, and I left. It was like 7 p.m. or 7:30 or something like that.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
And so I went to the interview at like 7:30 at night, and I go in there, and there's the HR director, the city manager, and a council member in there. And I'm like, yeah, no, there's no way I'm getting this job. But I went through the interview, and I thought I did pretty decent. I represented myself well, I said. When I went home, I told my wife, I was like, I represented myself well. I talked about the programs I want to see within the city because we live here. And I said, and how I think we should do them. And I talked about other stuff in the questions. I can't remember any of the questions, but I thought I represented myself well. And, and I talked about policies and procedures and following those, and standard operating procedures, got to develop them, all that stuff that I learned on the res. And I thought I said I represent myself, but they're probably going to be looking for someone with experience, I told her. And she goes, don't sell yourself short. I was like, okay. She kind of got mad at me. And I remember at the end of the interview, I said, so what's the next steps? And they said, oh, we'll probably have a second round in about a week. And if you make it to the second round, which usually when they say if you make it, that means probably not going to make it. But they said, if you make it to second round, we'll let you know and we'll schedule it. And it'll be more of a performance base. So we'll want you to demonstrate or present something. I'm like, okay. And so I left, and my coordinator at the res, the guy that's my guy right underneath me, he also interviewed for the same job. And so 2 days later, wait, no, it was the next morning, they offered me the job pending background investigation. And I was still worried about my teaching thing coming out because, working for the city that's close to the school district.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know if that was going to come into effect. So I was kind of nervous. So I didn't really quit my res job or put my 2 weeks over. I just did the paperwork, did the drug screen, did all that. And then they gave me a start date, and then I had to put my 2 weeks in. But that was March 25th. I started 2024.
So you went from getting fired to running the whole damn park.
Yeah, I have it's a small town. I think there's 56 acres of parks, 2 ponds.
Yeah, you've shown me some
3
pictures.
splash pads, 3 splash pads. I built the park. Like I finished, like they had the plan, but I actually had to go get the contractor to do the bids and then have them build the park. We're working on building a 3.5 acre pond.
You said lake at first, but we corrected you.
Well,
we corrected you. We're like, no, that's not a lake.
It's Arizona. That's what there we go again. Well, anyways, dang it.
I quit.
No, don't quit. We're good. But the city I'm in, it's like, just relax, Ben. We're moving on.
No,
we're moving on. Don't bring too much attention to it. Gosh.
Well, you are wearing a shirt.
Yeah, but this has nothing to do with the geographic location I'm in.
No, but it's got to do with you can put 2 and 2 together.
There's 3 schools in the United States that have this name.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Well, anyways, yeah, 56 acres, a bunch of green space. I have the facilities I have to deal with.
Well, the thing with this podcast, first of all, is, so far we are in the clear, right? It don't matter. I know you didn't want to say the name and that kind of thing, but
I'm not saying anything bad.
Right. You're just explaining what happened.
Negative. Like I was back in the day, I said things I shouldn't have said. I was joking around, but
yeah, it was jokes.
Shouldn't have done it. So
I guess, man.
It is what it is. I got to be more protective of my words and my position in the world. But yeah, so with this job, there's a new high school in the that's part of that district, and I work with them. I enjoy working with them, actually. I enjoy seeing their programs getting better and expanding. So I enjoy what I'm seeing coming from the kids. I work really well with the elementary school district. Me and the superintendent there, we talk a lot. I can call him right now. He'll answer. That's a good thing at, 8:00 at night.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's been a lot of positives. Like, I guess I can owe it to you for getting me fired, but
no, I take no credit in anything that happened.
But the cool thing is this job allowed us to buy a house here instead of renting. So we bought a house.
Do I feel bad for what happened? Absolutely.
I said it, not you.
I know, but still, you know what I mean? I was there. You know what I mean? I was there, and I don't know.
Things happen.
I told Lucas the whole story, or pretty much the whole story, the story that I knew, what part of the story that I knew. And he felt the same way. He was just like, God, he couldn't believe it. Neither one of us, we were like, what the hell? What the hell happened? But
the thing is, like, not to get all religious or anything, but like, things happen for a reason, and there's a reason I wanted to leave my old school to come here for my wife to be around her family and my daughter to be around my wife's family, because my family's in Michigan. We're not going to move to Michigan. So there's a reason that clicked in me. There's a reason this happened. There's a reason this happened. There's a bunch of things that happened within like 3 or 4 months that were, there's some bad things that happened, like basically getting made to quit, or getting fired.
When you were sitting there and they told you, if you'll just sign this and resign, you didn't resign right then, did you?
No.
Okay. So that's why they came out with the paper 10 days later or whatever.
No, I resigned like probably 4 or 5 hours later over email.
Okay. And they still launched the investigation because you didn't resign right then like they wanted you to.
I don't know about that. I think they were going to do it no matter what.
Okay.
If I'm honest with you.
Yeah.
They felt like I did wrong. And that's part of the rules is if you feel like a teacher is doing wrong, you have to report them.
Let's go back and explain what you were, you said you coached volleyball. I don't think we got into anything else. You were actually I mean, you were a teacher, but what were you doing?
A PE and health.
Okay. So you're a PE coach. You said this comes back to I met James, sim racing online, cars. He's sitting in his rig right now, and my rig's over here to my left behind me. But so we like to get on, we like to sim race. So that's how I met James, and then Josh Anderson. Everybody knows Josh, or if you're from Wilburton, you know Josh, our hometown. Anyways, Josh knows him as well. Actually, we can talk about that too. But Josh and I both, he had a name that was called the PE teacher. And we were like, no, it's not a PE teacher, man. You are a coach. You are a coach. So that was a funny argument between us. But so he was, then he changed it. Yeah. Yeah. So I would like to go back to you being a PE coach and coaching volleyball. You also coached track too, correct? Cross country?
So when I started teaching, I did cross country and track.
Because you ran track in high school.
Yep, and college.
Yep.
And so the thing is, like, I coached track for a couple years. Then I went to a school of like 90 kids, and they didn't have track. And they're like, if you want this job, you have to coach volleyball. And I said, I know nothing about volleyball. And they said, well, you have a summer to learn. And the funny thing about that is I did go home and I came back, and we actually, the next 2 years when I was at that school, we won the championship for volleyball both years and went to state. And then I also coached basketball there and golf. And then I went to another school because at that time, it was like 2008. So it was like the economic turmoil. And so they kept like reduction in force, basically saying, you're the youngest teacher, so your reduction in force, we're moving you. So I moved from this school to this school. And then 2 years later, I had to go to this school. And at that school, I coached volleyball, basketball, and golf. But I still have that track background. And so I was at that school for 6 years. And I actually met my wife during that time, my last year there. And the reason we moved is because I got reduction in force again. The enrollment dropped. The school didn't have money. So then I decided I was just going to go to a big district in a city. And so I went there and I got the volleyball job. And then they had me coach freshman basketball for a couple seasons. And then that's where I got back in the track. But the whole time I was coaching club volleyball too. So
when it comes to long distance running, do some people just don't have it, or can you get them? Well, can you get them there?
Anything. It's just reps. It's just repetition. I mean, they're not going to be like, if they don't have the talent, they're not going to be superstars, but they're going to be in high school. You can make anyone a usable player.
Well, what kind of talent do you need to be a long distance runner besides the obvious?
Oxygen delivery system.
Right.
Slow. A good mixture of slow and fast twitch muscle fibers. I mean,
is there a way to make yourself able to breathe more?
Yeah, it's just practice, bud. It's just practice.
Besides reps. I mean, is there a way? Like, is there a way to breathe? To actually, I mean, do you actually coach these kids a way to breathe? No, okay. I mean, and so you don't have a way to breathe either. I mean, it's just reps.
It's just how I always breathe.
Like if you went running right now, and you tried to run, 10 miles right now, like literally you get up right now and take off out the door. Do you think you could get it done?
10 miles?
Yeah.
I can get 10 miles in. I'm not saying it's going to be as fast as I was when I was 20 years ago, but
right. But is there a certain pattern or a certain way you're going to instantly start breathing when you run out the door?
No, because everyone's got their own rhythm, and that's kind of what you're training off, their rhythm, their cycle, their rhythm. Some people have a short stride, long stride. It's they just get the rhythm, but breathing is breathing. It's like an instinctive. You just do it. I mean, you have to tell yourself to breathe. Like, oh, don't forget to breathe. No, you don't. You just breathe. So it's like the same as running. Your body just kind of tells you, hey, you need more oxygen. Breathe quicker.
So when you're coaching track, it's got to be pretty easy then, right? I mean, what are you actually... No,
because you got...
I mean, what's involved in coaching track?
So you mean distance running?
Right. Distance running. Yeah, because, I'm really fast, okay? Don't even think I'm not. I'm really fast, but I was never taught how to launch, I guess you would call it. Like if you put me on the track to race, I mean, there's my mom's videoed my brother and I racing one day, and he gets down, he ran track. I didn't run track. He gets down in the stance, in the whatever you call that. And I was looking down at him like, what the hell is he doing? And I instantly knew I was going to get beat because I was like, oh man, he's going to be able to get off faster than me. But anyways,
So with distance running, what I did, and I've had a lot of top 5 teams in the state. In the summer, we just get mileage in, long runs, tempo runs. And basically, I'm trying to explain this. The more mileage you run, the more you're getting your oxygen delivery system going, the more efficient your body can deliver oxygen to your muscles in a way, which kind of makes you faster. The reason we do tempos is tempos are like about 65 to 80% of your max heart rate. It's whatever pace that is for each individual. When I was in college, that I was like a 5 minutes a mile was my tempo pace. So I could just crank out like 10 miles at 5-minute mile pace, and that's fine. That's me only using like 80% of my oxygen delivery system. I'm not getting that heavy legged. Like I'm burning off the oxygen kills lactic acid. So at that 80%, you're killing off the lactic acid that is being built in your body. So you're teaching your body how to burn lactic acid, basically. And lactic acid is that when you're running and sprinting and your legs get heavy, that's lactic acid going in your muscles, causing that. So what you're training is you're training your body for your oxygen delivery system. Tempos train how to burn the lactic acid off as you're running. The more efficient your body is at lactic acid, the faster that pace is. So the faster your race pace is. Because your race pace in distance running, it's about 90%, which means you're slowly building lactic acid. So the more efficient your body is at killing lactic acid or burning it off, the faster you go in the long run. So it's a lot of science behind it.
I like it.
And then in the middle of the season, you do intervals, which are just around race, a little bit slower in race pace. And it's just training them how to do like a race. What I used to do is we used to do tempo thousands, and every third 1,000 meters would be all out. And that way they would go in oxygen, like they would go in oxygen and lactic acid buildup. And then the fourth one, they'd learn how to go back to pace. So they would learn how to run fast tired. I know this is really nerdy stuff. Sorry. We never got.
I asked for a reason.
We're really, it's really weird. I know.
Well, I didn't know what the science was behind on, the long distance running. I know that if you're going to teach somebody to run, short distance, there's a way of running and launch and all of that, so I get that part of it. But as far as long distance running, as a coach, are you watching them saying, hey man, your stride is just not, you're off today? Or
you do form drills with them to work on their like form.
That's what I was asking. Yeah.
But those are like 15-20 meter like soldier marches, things like that, and just teaching them their body mechanics. But honestly, like if a kid missed like 2 or 3 splits in a row that they're supposed to hit easily, I usually just pull them from a workout because they're tired. They need the rest. The more tired they are, the more likely they are to get injured. So it's not worth having them. You're going to do more damage to them by making them complete that workout. Like, toughen up, kid, get through it. No, that's not worth it.
Gotcha.
I know, it's nerdy. You haven't asked for the story yet.
Which story?
My dad.
Oh yeah, I was going to get to it.
I've been waiting for it.
No, I was not. In fact, I talked about it a couple of days ago. We were at the hospital. Reagan was having her baby, and I was telling them at the hospital? I was talking about, I was telling Austin's family, Reagan's husband. I was telling him, I was telling his family, and I think I was telling him too. But anyways, I was telling them the story. And dude, the whole time I was telling the story, there was no reason for me to be telling this story. You know what I mean? Like, no. I'm just saying that's me. Like just something pops in my head and I'm going to tell these people this story. Yes, I was in the waiting room. Cause she was like, I said, he's about to come on the podcast and tell the story. Austin's grandma was like, you got a podcast? And I was like, oh God, don't listen to the podcast. There's some I don't know if this woman, says the F word or, but I was like, yeah, we, friends that come on and, we talk about it. I said, it's just random, but, I told a little bit of the story of what had happened. And I'm sitting there thinking, why am I telling this story? Or after the fact, I told the story. Why did I tell that story? But hey, it's a fantastic story. So I don't care to tell it. But there was no reason. Like, they did not ask me. We were not talking about anything. I mean, I think maybe we were talking about surgery and that's it. Maybe that's it.
It probably relaxed the situation a little bit, broke it up. It wasn't so tedious.
Yeah. Yeah, it was, but after the fact, I'm sitting there and they're gonna go back to on their phones and stuff, and the waiting room's quiet. And I'm thinking, why are you the way you are, man? I don't get it. Every time I talk to somebody, I get in my truck or I go in the next room or I walk out the store or whatever. And I'm like, I overshare. I am the world's worst overshare. The world's worst. So anyways, you told me this story a while back and
I can expand on it too.
I said, dude, you're telling that story on the podcast and you're like, I'll do it. And I know your dad. I mean, your dad races with us as well. So, but let's go back to first. We're going to tell that story. Let's go back to you and your dad and Josh all flying from the state you're in. We're not going to say
again,
your dad flying from Michigan. And then Josh driving because the race was in Texas.
Well, my dad drove too from Michigan.
Well, your dad drove. Okay. That's right.
Because he's coming out to the state I live in to visit me too. After.
Yes. Yes. So you guys all went to the NASCAR race in Texas a few weeks ago.
Yep. The first week of May.
I was not invited.
You were invited. Multiple times I invited you and you said, if I'm in town, if I'm here.
Dude, that's the beginning of storm season, man, or right in the middle of storm season. It's hard for me to make plans. It really is. It's hard. And if I on the day of the race, I was literally in my chair, my recliner on ice. I had a really bad headaches.
But we did think of you and we got you a gift.
Yes, you did. A Bubba Wallace hat.
And I thought of you.
I'm not a Bubba Wallace fan.
You love him. You can't stop talking about him.
At all. You're the one that was racing his paint on iRacing.
2311. I got the 2311 hat somewhere in here.
Anyways, it was fun. But did y'all have a good time?
Yeah. So I flew up Friday. So when I was flying out, I get to the airport and it's 4:00 and my plane leaves at 5:30. And I pull up. Well, I get there. It was like 3:30 I got there. And my plane leaves at 5:30. And then I get a text that my plane's delayed until 9:30.
Who'd you fly with?
Spirit. And then about 8:00, I get another text saying my plane is delayed until 1 a.m. And so I didn't get to Texas until Saturday about 4 a.m., 4:30. And then I'm not going to wake my parents up to pick me up from the airport. So I took an Uber. It was like $50 some for this Uber.
My gosh, are you kidding me?
No, because it's from Dallas to Fort Worth.
Yeah, it's a long drive too.
Yeah. And so
the people throw out there, Dallas, Fort Worth, and it's one great big area. And yes, it's a great big area. Yeah. Where'd you stay at? Did you stay in Fort Worth?
Yeah, we stayed about 10 miles. It was about 15 minutes from the track.
What hotel did you stay at?
I can't remember.
Okay, because I have a funny story at a hotel in Fort Worth that I've told on the podcast before. It's the freaking strangest story in the entire world.
But I feel bad because my parents drove there on Friday to make sure that they could pick me up at the airport, and then my plane gets delayed. So anyways, I made it to the thing. I walk in at like 4:30 in the morning. My mom wakes up as, he's here. I said, surprise! That's what I did at 4:30 in the morning. And then I laid down. And then 2 hours later, my dad's like pinching my toe, my big toe on my foot. So let's go get breakfast. And I just like look at him like, are you effing kidding me? You would feel the same way, right?
Dude, I'm not waking up.
And so then I said, give me 20, go get ready and I'll get up once you guys are ready. Well, they didn't wake me up again. They just left and had breakfast. So I wake up.
Good parents right there.
Yeah, I wake up and there's no one in there. I'm thinking they're there. So I'm like, what the heck? So anyways, they get back. And then right about then is when Josh is showing up to the track. And we're going to meet. And so we go and have lunch someplace all together. Josh, his wife, my parents and me. I feel like the third wheel or the youngest munchkin there. I don't know. Like I'm with the parents, the divorced parents or something. Well, anyways, and then I'm like looking at my phone in the high limit sprint car series that Kyle Larson owns. They have a race that day. And so I'm like showing it to Josh. It's like, let's do this. And everyone's on board. So we went to the sprint car races on Saturday after we watched the race, the Xfinity race in the restaurant. And then we went to the sprint car race. But funny story about that. I was looking at the times and I was thinking that they were in that time zone, but they were in my time zone. And so luckily we went because we would have missed the races if we would have went when I thought the races were. So luckily we went that, but that was cool because that's the first time I ever got to see the sprint car series. But the funny thing is we pulled into Texas Motor Speedway, which is where the sprint car track is and the big speedway. And my dad just starts driving. And I was like, Dad, just keep driving until they tell us to stop. We drove everywhere. We drove around the track. The only thing we didn't do is drive into the tunnel on inside the infield of the track. But
Yeah, man, you're
no
in
one
Texas.
stopped us. No one stopped us.
You can do what you want to do, man. They're not gonna. Yeah, everyone's having a good time.
We were literally driving right by the fan zone area, like right there.
Really?
Like no one stopped us. Well, anyways, so then it was like late, so we just went back, went to bed, woke up the next day, had breakfast, then went to the race. Then Josh and his wife headed home, and we went back to the hotel, and then I flew out the next day. And to be honest with you, I should have just gotten in the truck with my mom and dad and just drove to my house with them, but I took the day off because I didn't, because I had a council meeting, and I wish I didn't go to that council meeting. They were mean to me, but they're usually mean to me at those. They ask a lot of questions. They're very thorough. Something about this face just screams, I don't trust him, I guess. I don't know.
Oh, man. All right. So let's get back. Let's get to, I'm glad you had a good time without me.
I sent you videos and pictures.
Yeah.
And we got you a hat.
Yeah, you got me a hat. Appreciate it. Not really. I don't know what to do with it.
You want to tell them how you found out about your hat?
Oh, yeah. My mother-in-law sent me a picture of it, and Josh's wife saw her at her work, and she gave it to my mother-in-law. My mother-in-law sent me a picture of it on her dash, and I was like, what the heck's going on?
The original plan was to put it on your truck.
But I knew as soon as I saw the hat, I was like, what the heck is going on? I was like, okay, yeah.
We were going to put it on your truck, but it was raining or something, so Josh didn't do it.
Josh's wife runs the wellness center, I think. I think she runs it, yeah. And so my mother-in-law was there working out or something. I'm not sure why she was there, and that's how she got the hat. But at first I was like, this Bubba Wallace hat on my mother-in-law's dash. It was just strange, but it took me about 3 seconds, and I was like, I already know, what happens. Yeah, I laughed, and I thought, you know what, I'm not going to throw this thing away, so I'm not a Bubba Wallace fan, but I couldn't do that, so I've got it. I'm going to hold on to it. It's a funny story.
This also goes back to the way that me and Ben pick on each other. Me and Ben, pretty dry sense of humor, both of us. So sometimes when we say things, it comes off like we're being jerks to each other. But
I don't have a dry sense of humor at all, but I like to play along.
But I have a super dry sense of humor.
Yes, and your dad does too. He may not even have a sense of humor. I don't know. I haven't figured that out yet.
I haven't either. So anyways, me and Ben will pick on each other in our group chat, and I'll get a call from my dad telling me to leave him alone. You're being mean. And I'm like, no, Ben's fine. No, he's going to get angry with you. It's not funny. No one's it's just you. You think you're so funny, but you're being mean. He's just like yells at me.
Oh man, it's funny. And
like,
that right there makes it all that much better for me. I've told your dad, I've told Jim, I was like, hey man, this is joking. I'm joking. I am joking 100%. We will go back and forth, and I know, you can see where Jim is reading it.
For hours, we'll go back and forth,
and he thinks that we're serious, and I'm like, no, we're not serious.
This cat meme, oh my god, the cat meme just drove them nuts.
Yeah, it did.
That drove everyone nuts except me. I just laughed every time I saw it.
But speaking of a very dry sense of humor, your dad, I haven't heard him laugh or anything, but. So he had a procedure, right? Is that what you would call it?
Yep. A backstory in this. When I was my last year of college, my dad had kidney cancer. And so
I did not know that.
So, and he had his kidneys were fused together. So he had this major, because they never dropped when he was a kid to each side. So they were together.
What?
And so he had kidney cancer, which is a big deal when you have kidneys together. Because did it affect both? Did it affect one? And it was the size of a baseball, the tumor. And so my dad had, to get surgery. They had to break the kidneys up. And then, so this is 2007. And so they had to break the kidneys up. And so because of that, he gets a lot of screens for cancer to make sure that he's good. Obviously, my dad's still alive. They got it all. It didn't affect the other kidney. So my dad gets these procedures done all the time to make sure that he's good, and he worries about me, so he always wants me to get those procedures done. I'm like, nope, not old enough yet. But anyways,
You're like, my kidneys dropped.
and so he got a colonoscopy, is it called?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, colonoscopy. So he had to schedule a colonoscopy. He was nervous about it and everything like that. Well, my dad, and he's a big guy, and anesthesia doesn't always work on him or keep him under. And so they got an anesthesiologist and they put him under. And somewhere during the procedure, he was kind of in and out of it a little bit. And he's got a big chocolate lab, a chocolate lab at home named Bo. I'm going to let Ben drink water because I don't want it to spit up. And so in the procedure, he woke up or came around and he started reaching back and he said, knock it off, Bo, knock it off. He thought the dog's nose was up his ass in the middle of the procedure, but everything turned out fine.
Good. I didn't know that part.
Yeah, everything's good.
I guess I should have asked that part later on, right?
Yeah, but the dog, he thought it was the dog.
And that's the funniest part. But your mom is giving you updates, right? She's the one that is told this story to you initially.
Yeah, and she sends a text.
And we're trying to figure out how she knew.
Yeah, I think we're on together, weren't we? We're talking or something. We're on Discord or something. And
maybe.
I reached out and I read this message and I'm like reading it. And then I remember he had a colonoscopy that day. And so I read it to Ben and Ben's like, what? And I said, oh, my dad had a colonoscopy. He woke up during the middle of it and thought the dog's nose was up his butt. And Ben did that right there. And he goes, you got to be kidding me. You're lying, right? You got to be kidding me. I was like, no, because I have a dry sense of humor. So everything comes out like informational, not like a joke.
Right.
Ben was like, I was like, no. And then I started laughing.
I'm laughing
because Ben's
hard.
dying.
I'm waking everybody up in the damn neighborhood. Okay. Yeah. I'm sitting and I'm thinking someone's gonna call the cops because I'm laughing real hard. But your mom was like, Dad's okay, everything's okay. He thought Bo was.
He woke up during the procedure and thought Bo was the nose was up his butt.
Your dad is going to kill both of us now for showing the story.
Well, you're going to show him the video because he won't look it up. He's a boomer.
No, I guess I won't. I don't know. I actually would love to put it together and post it in our group chat and see what the hell he says. That would be, oh my God, if you could tell your mom to video him, if you could call your mom and say, Mom, Ben is fixing to post something in the chat. I need you to video Dad watching this. Can you do that?
Yeah, he might get mad at me for like a day or two, but he'll get over it.
If he's gonna get mad,
no, he won't get mad. He'll be upset for like a day or two. Then he'll realize no one knows what he looks like, and he'll be fine.
Damn, I don't want to make Jim mad. I love Jim.
Jim is great. Jim is a good dad. He's always been a good dad.
Jim is a hard talker. He's like he don't laugh. And I'm like, I'm trying to make Jim laugh, and he's not laughing. I'm like, okay, I'm trying to make Jim laugh.
I don't know if I've ever seen him laugh. Well, I've seen him laugh a little bit here and there, but he doesn't make noises when he laughs. He just
do that one more time. My gosh, dude. Have we covered everything pretty much?
I don't know. There's probably other things you probably want to talk about.
I know you just told me a story, but tell me another story.
That one's still raw, so I don't want to get into that one a little bit. Well, Parks and Rec is a unique job, I would say, because basically you got to look at it as you're in charge of the city's fun. You're the reason sometimes the kids leave the house for the recreational games. The adults leave to go to programs like we have Pilates and yoga and all this other stuff. We have a boxing program. We have a wrestling program. So,
really?
Yeah. And so
in the park,
in the Parks and Rec, no, because you got to remember, I'm in charge of all recreation. So that means
right. But I'm just saying, do you have a building?
We have multiple buildings. Last Thursday, a kid took a dump in the pool. We had to shut it down.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had to chemical it up. And I mean, there's some interesting things that happen in Parks and Rec, but the big thing you got to realize is we're a service, so I'm giving back to the community. That's what I like about Parks and Rec the most, is because like I'm serving the community. I'm making things better for the community. I'm in charge of all the special events. So like we have special events that we'll get 8,000 to 9,000 people at a park or on Main Street.
That is very good.
Yeah, I mean it's like our city model is best little city for events, family, and businesses. And
What would be
right
your favorite one so far?
of the events. Well, what I'm so 4th of July is always our biggest, which makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
But this year we're trying something new. Instead of doing a fireworks show, we're going to do a drone show.
Wow.
So because my daughter's got autism, so I like inclusivity, and sometimes the kids freak out when it's all bang bang bang, and that's something that the whole county that I live in doesn't have. So I think we're gonna pull a lot of people. But like our events are basically, we have 3 bands, we have a contest, we have vendors, about 40 to 45 vendors for selling food and stuff. We have the bands come, live music. We're gonna have 4th of July. The reason I like that is because we have 8 like the inflatable water slides for the kids, 8 of them, and we have the lifeguards there to make sure no one drowns. We have a balloon fight, and water balloons. It's like the biggest water balloon fight ever.
How'd you clean that up?
That's why I have a staff. But
Is there any easy way of cleaning the balloons up off the ground like that?
no, they usually just suck them up somehow. Like,
Okay.
but so we have we'll have the water balloon fight. We'll have the things for the kids. I just think 4th of July is more of our family friendly one. And we have a lot of vendors. We have a lot of people that come and like serve the community.
So there'll be no fireworks, or you're going to do
No.
fireworks one night and
No, because
drones
the other municipalities by us, they're having fireworks.
Oh,
And
okay.
so what can we do? So we're doing it on July 3rd, ours, and they're going to do theirs on July 4th.
What can
And
you
so
do different?
What can we do different to pull people? That's our big thing. I'm also in charge of the senior center. So we always have the seniors there to sell water and stuff and sell the senior center.
So the drone show, is there like a company that you contact and they come out and put on? Okay.
Yeah.
Is that expensive? Is that more expensive than fireworks, or
I think I think we're paying about 20,000.
Good gosh.
And we get 250 drones for 20,000. And it's about a 15 to 18 minute show.
Damn.
Yeah. But fireworks is about 25 to 30,000 for a 12-minute show.
12-minute show?
Yeah.
Dang, man. We get like 45 minutes or an hour.
Yeah, think about how much that is.
I mean, we are the heartbeat of America, and we do live in the greatest state, so that would make sense that our fireworks shows are.
I was a history major, Trail of Tears,
I didn't say in the past. I'm talking about now. Greatest state. But anyways,
I don't mind driving through it. You're right. Driving through it.
12-minute long fireworks display, man. That's insane.
25 to 30,000.
That's like how long the grand finale lasts for us, here in Oklahoma, man. They put on there's multiple hell of firework display here in Oklahoma.
Well, in Michigan too, over the Great Lakes, but here it's not very much.
My tribe, Choctaws, they put on a hell of a show.
I wish, but it's
Choctaw
okay.
Nation. But anyways, I'm just being funny, I'm being honest. It is true.
Greater Days. We had we were trying to set the Guinness Book of World Records for the most overalls at a festival.
The overall what?
Overalls.
Really?
Yeah.
Did it work? Did it happen?
We got like 280 something. So yeah, we beat them.
So y'all did set the record
unofficially. It hasn't been official yet.
Were they there, or what? I mean, how do you make this official?
So that's also, you have to pay like about, I think it was 18,000 for them to make it official. Guinness Book of World Records is not cheap.
You got to pay 18 grand. So I'm guessing they're not wanting to pay 18 grand.
That's 18 grand plus their hotel, their air flight, and all that.
Oh, so they got to come out and be there when it happens. So y'all had this unofficial.
Yeah. What we did is we gave everyone a ticket when they came in, and so we could count how many people had tickets.
Did you have overalls on?
I did. I have them sitting right over there.
Why did I not see these?
Yeah, they're in my closet right there.
I mean, why did I not see a picture of you in these?
I look like a fat farmer Joe. That's why.
Well, you think as a Parks and Rec director, like you said, you get to think outside the box, right? So any recent outside of the box other than the drone show, because that's pretty outside the box.
Well, we'll get into this a little bit. We just concluded a recreational season, T-ball, and we had a 3 and 4 division and a 5-6 division. And our community is big on keeping score and having winners, which I'm okay with.
You should be for.
It's okay. but
it's absolutely the way it should be.
yeah. And so right now, because we had so many issues with them yelling at refs, yelling at each other, threatening each other, this is like,
It is T-ball. I will have
yeah.
to say it is T-ball. So
Well,
we don't have to be too crazy on scores.
yeah,
Right.
but they're crazy. 3 and 4 were crazy. And then I'm watching, and so my big thing is I want to develop kids in our Parks and Rec direct part. So I always go and look at the games and say, what can we do better? What can we do better? And so I was literally I watched the whole T-ball game, and they never threw the ball once. They would grab the ball and run to first base, grab the ball and run to home plate. They would never like throw the ball. And so when I met with my recreational coordinator, we were talking about how can we make this better? How can we make this about development? How can we make the coaches care about development, not just winning and losing? And so we're kind of reorganizing our T-ball where they play each team 3 times. So the first 2 times we're not going to keep score. The third time we're going to keep score. And then we're still going to have the tournament at the end for, champs. I also talked about having them making a rule that, let's say they got it at the pitcher's mound and they threw it to first, but they overthrow it. Letting that be one base rather than them just keep running. Because that's really why they're not throwing it to first, because if they make a mistake, the kid's going to run all the way to home. So that's why they just grab the ball and run over there. But they're not learning the sport by doing that. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I agree.
And so what ideas can we come up with to make it more of a developmental program rather than what it is?
Usually only get one base anyways, though. I mean, you're only supposed to get one base on an overthrow, but
well, that's what I mean. But like the way it is now, they won't throw it over there because
yeah,
if it's overthrown but it stays within the fence, they just run like regular T-ball. And I'm like, yeah, we can't do that. We got to figure out how to get them to do something and not be afraid of making that mistake, because that's the only way they're going to learn. And I said, if they throw it between, if they get at the pitcher's mound and they throw it at the batter that's running, yeah, let the batter keep running, because they didn't try to make a play at first. But if they try to make a play at first and they fail, let's not make the consequence be so bad that they don't want to do it again, and then they just grab the ball and run over there.
So are the parents the coaches?
Yeah. Well, and we have a draft, so what we do is we just put names and put them on like their names and put it on the board like this, spread them out. And so like all the 3-year-olds are in this column, all the 4-year-olds in this column. So it's a 3-4 team. They pick 6 from here and 6 from here. Or, you know what I mean?
Right.
And that's how we do the draft. But I told my coordinator, like, hey, next time before that draft, let's have a conversation with them and let's like say, hey, this is what we want to see.
Yes.
You're doing great. We're great. You're here. We're great. You're volunteering. You're doing a service to your community. You're doing a service to your kid, your nephew, whatever, your niece. And let's do it this way, and let's not care about making mistakes. And my whole goal with not keeping score those first 2 games is that's where they can do the development and really try that stuff, because there's no score. And then that third time they play, we can keep score. That's how we play for seeding for the tournament at the end of the season.
Yeah. For T-ball, that's okay.
That's kind of my out of the box thinking. We got our basketball league coming up now soon, so that'll be the next thing we have to work on tomorrow.
As far as T-ball goes, man, and in coaching, you don't have to know that much to coach these kids, because you really just need to work on throwing, catching, and running bases, and that kind of thing. It's very
basic.
Yes, very basic.
Well, we got coaches swearing at each other, cussing each other out.
Gosh, I was going to ask, did anybody get thrown out? Anybody did any of the umps have to throw anybody out?
That's the problem. If the umps would have stepped up to the plate, we wouldn't have had the problems we had at the end of the T-ball
Well, I'm sure most of the umps are young kids, though, right? They're probably 16, 17, 18-year-old kids, and these grown men are, screaming at them.
And that's why I don't get it. I don't get why you would do that.
I don't get it either, man. I don't understand. I really don't.
Here's this kid that just wants to make a couple bucks, making $20 a game, coaching T-ball, just making a little bit scrap for whatever he wants to do in the weekend, and
the last thing he wants to do is get me yelled at.
Yeah.
Over, herding cats. I mean, you're out there herding cats. As a coach, that's what I've always said. I helped coach Cason's baseball and football growing up, and maybe a little bit of basketball. But anyways, you're herding cats. You're out there. You're a herder.
My favorite is the younger they are, the more it's like an amoeba just traveling around the field. And it doesn't matter. Basketball, soccer, T-ball, it doesn't matter. The ball goes this way, they all go that way. The ball goes this way. It's so funny. It's so funny to watch. Like my nephew played, and he was playing, so we went and watched a couple of his games, and he would bat, and then he would take the bat with two hands and toss it straight up and just run underneath the bat that he tossed straight up. That thing almost hit him in the head every time. I'm like, how does the coach allow that?
Right.
Like, he's going to throw the bat. After he makes contact with that, you're standing right there. After he makes contact with that ball, grab the bat out of his hand and let him run.
We were not allowed to throw the bat out of the circle.
Yeah, he's just straight up.
I think that was 5 pitch, though. I don't think in T-ball they would really say anything. I don't remember.
And I saw other coaches, they would bat and just forget where to run. And they would run the third base. And I'm like, that's cute. They're kids. That's cute. That's something. They're having fun. You know what I mean? But then I see all these kids leaving crying. I'm like, why are you crying?
What would be something that you would, if you were going to build your own park as a Parks and Rec director, what would be like, and you had an infinite amount of money, what would be like the first thing, the biggest thing that you would build?
I think there's a big need for like inclusive playground equipment. I don't know if you know what that is.
I'm guessing inclusive playground equipment would be for, all walks of life, right?
It's, yeah.
Would that be
yeah. So like
handicap?
There's like, the wheel around or wheel go around or whatever it's called.
Merry-go-round?
Merry-go-round. There you go. They build those now where you could put a wheelchair on it and strap it down and spin it.
Mm-hmm.
They build teeter-totters that you put wheelchairs on, and they kind of do this. So they have all this nice stuff that they put in place. And there's probably 3%, 4% of the parks in America have that. And so
really,
yeah. And so what the ADA, like accountability, what the rules are is they just have to, like, the kid needs to be able to get close to the equipment. They don't need to use the equipment to meet ADA compliability, which is a disservice. Like, your brother's swinging and you're in a wheelchair or a walker, at least you can get close to him and watch him swing. That's not really fair to that kid. So if I could build a park, it would be super inclusive. And the funny thing is about it, we have a park coming in. I think I told you about it. I'm actually working with a community member right now to fundraise about $125,000 so we can put these inclusive play equipment into our parks right now. And so I'm working with them right now to do that, because we don't have any of that equipment. We actually are still using, like, there's a rubberized pour and play, like, ground cover.
Mm-hmm.
We're still using sand and stuff like that for our fall protection under our playgrounds. So there's a lot of things I'm doing like that just to kind of make sure that every kid can be involved in what we do in parks. That's a big thing with me, is because I think that's like, if we're going to be the best little city for families, then we need to be the best little city for families. And not every family has like able-bodied kids that can walk around on their own and do things like that. So we need to make sure that we have a place for those kids and things for those kids to do so they can be part of the general population and play.
Yeah, I agree.
You
don't really think about that kind of thing unless you're, around it.
Yeah. We've never actually talked about that, but that's like a big thing with me, is just because when I found out my daughter has autism, and then, she wasn't her own, for a lot of time, she wasn't her own individual. She was, I don't know how to say it. She was her diagnosis, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, people just looked at her as, she's autistic. Well, she's Aria. She's my daughter. She might not talk a lot, but she's cute. She's smart. She can get in that pool and play for hours. We take her to summer camp every day. She does good there. She just doesn't talk. She's not her diagnosis. She's her own person. And so that's when I started realizing, like, there's not a lot of inclusiveness for kids that are in wheelchairs, kids that are in walkers, kids that need, adult changing tables. You have a baby changing table. Do you have an adult changing table? What are you're going to change those kids in a park restroom floor? Like, that's what we're doing to kids right now. So, let's start making our parks fit for those people, which, comes with money and grants and things like that. But I mean, I'm committed to making our city, the city I live in, one of the leaders in that kind of area. So that's I'm kind of driven now by that stuff.
And you think that's merry-go-round, man? I didn't know they still did the merry-go-rounds. The merry-go-rounds in my day were only to weed out the weak kids, and I mean to kill them, because they were very dangerous.
Well, you can't. It's not going to spin that fast.
Right. I can show you a picture. I'm sure we can bring it up somewhere, but there's the merry-go-round that was on my elementary playground. I had a grown man.
You're just
A grown man, he was a family member, and I got on that merry-go-round and he spun that thing as fast and hard as he could. And dude, at one point I was holding on to the rail, right? And my feet, I was like Superman. I was fully stretched out and I lost grip and I flew, right? I flew off of that thing. I don't know how far I flew.
We've all been there.
When I was a kid, I thought I flew like, 75 feet, but maybe it was more like, I don't know,
4.5
or 4 or whatever. I know it hurt so bad. I could not believe. I was like, did you not? I was thinking, you're trying to kill me.
The worst thing on those things is when you lose your feet, because then you're all arms.
Yeah.
At least when you have your feet, you can wrap your feet. You can get kind of in there. You can kind of angle yourself in the little crevice of the bars.
Well, I was on the outside of it on purpose. I was holding on to it on the outside and he was spinning. And eventually I'm like stretched out like Superman. And then it was all over. And it was I'll never forget it.
It's like, you remember Red Rover?
I'm like, you saw me stretched out, dude. You knew I was about to
lose
grip and die. Oh, yeah.
Remember how we used to like run as fast as we could and try to break that person's arm to try to break
Dang
that chain?
right.
That's like a merry-go-round like times 10. We're just holding on, trying to break our arms, holding on. Yeah. If we don't hold on, we're gonna break a leg by flying off it. I mean, the things we did when we were children that the kids won't do these days, man.
No, only the strong survive, man. I'm telling you, that's the truth. I don't know if some of these kids will survive on some of this stuff that we did or some of the stuff that we would do.
And the reason that stuff's not around, because someone got hurt and got sued.
Because people were dying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Imagine if you got stuck underneath the merry-go-round when it was spinning and hitting your head.
Ours was, it probably weighed as much as a car. I mean, it was solid. It was solid iron.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Playground equipment's crazy.
I'm pretty sure it was there for 40 years before I even came along. I mean, it was old. And this thing was like, get on me and I will kill you. I mean, it was it was a death trap.
Well, now you buy like the playground equipment's like $250,000 and you're going to get like one feature.
That's crazy.
Like a treehouse feature with a slide and like maybe some monkey bars that go across to the next one.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's so expensive. And life is expensive now.
Dang right.
Like when I was getting quotes for things, it's like, this quote's good for 15 days because of the tariffs. Well, I can't take this to council for a month, so it's crazy. Anything you want to tell the viewers?
No, I'm racking my brain, man. I mean, I was curious of what would you take out of the park?
Well, we're going to add pickleball courts to one of our park.
And you don't want to?
I think if you're going to put
pickleball around here is huge.
It's huge around here
Pickleball is blowing up. You're going to get a lot of people. That's going to bring in a lot of people in. I would think on a normal day that would be who's going to be there. Most people. I
don't know. I mean, I think our parks are pretty good. Joe Munoz is one of the parks. It's probably the oldest park in the city. It's old. We're going to do some updates to it. The cool thing is this budget year, the council gave me about $400,000 to park improvements and just fix up some park stuff. And so,
you have any merry-go-rounds you'll need to take out?
No.
You'll put up a bunch of splash pads?
No, we have 2 already.
I know we are. We're putting up we have a whole bunch in this town. I don't know how many we have, but it's more than we need.
Yeah.
In my honest opinion.
But one of the ponds, when the splash pad runs, it fills up the pond. So we need that splash pad to run. And so the other day I drove by and I was looking at the pond and it was kind of low. And I went to our park and facilities manager. I was like, hey, we need to get the canal water into that thing. He's like, usually they use the splash pad. I was like, it's been too hot for them to be using splash pads. I was like, they don't want to stand on that hot cement.
Y'all got a dry heat out there though. Not saying where you are, but it's a dry heat. I can say that, right?
Majority of the time.
It's not that hot.
It's hot, but when you open the oven, there's no humidity in there cooking.
Right.
An oven's dry heat, but it still works.
That's an inside joke, chat. I give James hell about his temperature. He'll send me it's 110 degrees or 105 degrees. And I'm like, it's a dry heat.
Well, that one I sent you, like it was 121, and you're like, it's a dry heat. I'm like, it's 121 degrees. What do you mean it's a dry heat?
Man, that's funny.
That's the only thing that kind of irritates me sometimes because you're like, it's a dry heat. And your feelings about Mexico.
My feelings about Mexico are valid.
Well, just so you know, so we'll go back to this because we hit on it a little bit. My wife is from Mexico. I live about 15 minutes from the Mexican border.
But she's not from there. But you say that every time.
She
Is from Mexico.
She was born and raised in Mexico. Her brothers were born in the United States, raised in Mexico.
Hey, can we tell a funny story?
Her brothers are in the military.
Yeah. One of them's in the
Navy.
But one of them's in our fantasy football league, right?
Yeah, that's the one in the Navy. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey man, I know some really good people from Mexico, but I also know that you went to Mexico one time and was woken up in the middle of the night.
Yeah, probably.
and you had to leave the country.
Mexican Christmas, let's just put it that way. So we were living in a different town about 4 hours away from here. And so we made every other Christmas, we either go to my parents' house in Michigan or go to her parents' house in Mexico. And this one was, we're going to Mexico. And so we go there and, and it's a family thing. So they drink and have fun and bullshit, have fun, whatever. Well, anyways, sometimes my wife and her younger brother, they don't see eye to eye. Well, in fact, my wife's younger brother and me don't always see eye to eye, to be honest with you. But it is what it is.
Is this the one that's in the fantasy football league?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is the one that has like 3 children and never see them, but we're not getting there. So anyways, me and Ari go to bed. It's like Christmas Eve. They open presents at midnight on Christmas Eve, and then we went to bed. Me and my daughter went to bed, and I get woken up about 3:30 in the morning, and we got kicked out because my wife and her younger brother got in a huge fight, and my mother-in-law had enough of it, and so she kicked us all out of the house at 3:30 in the morning. And remember, I'm 4 hours away, and my stepkids who are driving, they drove separately with us, so because they had to go to work. So they drove separately so they can go home earlier to get to work. And so she kicks us out. And so my wife is, she's drunk and they're arguing. And I'm like, no, I'm not leaving. And then my mother-in-law is screaming at me in Spanish. And I'm like out of it. Like, I'm like, what the hell? I wasn't drunk. I'm like, my daughter's here. My stepkids, how can she do this? Like, kick them out. And so here I am at 3:40 loading the car up. My wife's like crying. Her brother's being a dick. My kids are like, what do we do? I was like, you're going to drive at 3:30 in the morning. Follow me. Back to 4 hours. And then we get to the line and it's like an hour and a half line.
The border.
Yep. The border. So it's like an hour because we didn't have Century at that time. And so it's like an hour and a half line. So I'm like waiting in line an hour and a half. My kids are behind me. I'm like tired, wore out. My child's sleeping. My wife's sleeping. I'm sitting there by myself like, oh, this is fun. I'm the one that's going to go without. So we get back. And I remember the next day I like got on a race and Ben's like, oh, you're back. And so I tell Ben this story and Ben's like, I would never go back. Never go back.
Absolutely would not go back. You wake me up in the middle of the night and we are enemies from now on.
Now, here's the funny part of this story. I don't let my mother-in-law live it down. So
hell no, I wouldn't.
So this last Christmas, we are having it here.
Yeah.
And my brother-in-law's in the military, not the younger one. He was at my house. And I told my mother-in-law, I said, I can't wait till 3:00 in the morning when I can kick your ass out of the house. I said it just like that to her. My wife like looks at me and all my brother-in-laws look at me and they just all bust out laughing. And my mother-in-law's like looking at me like, what did he just say?
Does she know? Is she fluent in English?
She's better now, but she knew exactly what I said. And she's like looking at me and they're all like looking at me. I was like, I can't wait. And then like at 1:00, I said, you got 2 more hours. At 2:00, I said, you got 1 more hour. And I'm drinking this last Christmas. And then at 3:00, I said, time to go. Time to go. Needless to say, she didn't leave, but
I was going to say no.
The joke is good though.
Right. That's very funny.
I figured you would enjoy that, right, Ben?
I probably wouldn't tell her. I probably would have just woke her up at 3 a.m. and told her to leave. Not made her leave, but just, I would have joked back with her, of course. You gave her a heads up and that's funny. But I would have waited till she went to sleep and then I would have, hey, you got to get out of here.
Well, so just a story how much my wife's family can drink like on celebrations. So my birthday, not last birthday because I went to Ensenada, but the birthday before, like last summer, I bought 2 30 packs and My brother-in-law brought beer. Everyone brought beer, and I put it all in this little mini fridge. And I had a couple beers. And I drink seltzers. If you guys don't know, like beer like tears up my stomach. So I started drinking seltzers because it makes me feel better.
We
Go
don't
ahead.
have to.
You can make fun of me.
Okay. I don't drink, but I'm not gonna drink that either.
But anyways,
it's like drinking water, right?
No, I drink. It's like it's not really seltzers. It's like there's vodka and stuff in it. It's like not like real seltzers. But anyways, it's like drinking a gin and tonic or something like that. But anyways, so I go to bed and the fridge is full. I wake up the next day, the fridge is empty. And I'm like, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people. I go, and I said just to my wife, I said, you motherfuckers drank like 300 beers last night. And then my wife, and I'm waking my wife up, and she's like kind of hungover. And she's like, leave me alone. And so I'm out there like me and as loud as I can because they're all in the house hungover, and I'm just being loud as shit to drive them all nuts.
They drank all your beer, all your seltzers. I can't believe they drink those.
Well, they drink the beer, which is what I bought that for them, so I didn't care. But then they all drink the seltzers because they ran out of beer. And then we were playing Beulah, which is like Mexican bingo.
Okay.
And so I was telling them it's $20 a game when they were drunk, and they were putting. And I just kept taking their money because I would say,
I need my beer money back.
I just kept taking their money. And then I felt bad because then we played a card game and Pablo was there, my stepson. And he won some money in Beulah. And so he's thinking he's good. I said, hey, double or nothing, put down high card gets the money. So he put his like $80 down and I put $80 down. And then I just flipped the deck over and I beat him. So I took his $80 that he was so proud of. But to be honest with you, then I went outside, handed it to my wife. I told her what happened. I walked away. She gave it back to him. But
yeah, of course.
But he learned his lesson about gambling at that point in time.
For sure. Did he keep doing it or no?
No, he stopped.
Really?
Yeah, he did not want to lose any more money.
Yeah, I beat my stepson in basketball when he was a kid, and we were gambling. We were betting money, which money never changed hands, of course. But I'm like, all right, let's $20, and then I beat him, and he's like, all right, double or nothing, and I'm like, all right, double or nothing, $40, and I beat him again.
Don't be crying.
Oh my gosh, he would get so mad. I mean, he was taking it serious, and I would play it along like I was serious. I'm like, all right, go get me the money, man.
Yeah, I'm not doing this for free. You show me the money.
Go get me $320,
Mom.
Yeah. And then right before he would be giving me the money, I'm like, dude, I'm not taking your money. Come on. I'm just trying to teach you a lesson. I was like, I'm just giving you a hard time. But He didn't like it. He did not like it.
I used to tell my kids, if you have a hard time paying your cell phone, do not bet. Do not go to the casino.
Very true. Good words.
Because you have no one to call after you lose it all.
Solid advice. That's true. Yeah. Yep. Very true. But anything else, James?
No, I think this is pretty good, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good one.
We'll have to come up and plan for another one, what we want to talk about.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
My childhood and the stupid stuff I did.
I'm glad we got the monkey off our back, man, because I know for a couple years now, almost, 2 months shy of wanting to tell the story, and we've went back and forth on it a bunch about, you coming on the podcast and getting forced to resign and of your job, and you big career change, and you just made a move 4 hours away from home. And so,
but everything turned out way better.
And how you turned it around is insane. It's a great story, man. I mean, it's a great story.
I didn't let it weigh down.
No, you didn't. I did not know you cried. I did not know that. If I'd have known that, I would have deleted you off my friends list, and never talked to you again. No, I'm kidding.
It was an emotional day.
Well, that's tough. That's tough, man. And I'm way out here. I'm halfway across the country, man. And I'm trying to think, man, doing these live, maybe we should have done it live. Maybe we should have, I don't know. There's a lot of things you're thinking about. You're like, okay, I've got to protect my guests better. That's kind of how I felt. I was like, man, I've got to do a better job.
When it all comes down to it, I'm an adult, and when I make statements like I do, it's up to me to, what do we teach? What do we tell kids all the time? Like, if you're gonna make that decision, deal with the consequence. I made the decision to say what I said, and I had to deal with the consequence, and that's really what I had to do. And it is part of life. Now, like we also tell kids, You can let it bother you and complain about it, or you just pick yourself up and move on, which is what I chose to do.
Yeah, it's crazy that the adults on the other side of this story didn't do that. You know, they let it bother them, and then they strong armed you
Well, like
out of your career, and I don't appreciate that.
Well, like I said, the state I live in, I almost said it.
Mhm.
It basically says if you feel like someone did something unethical, you have to turn them in. That's part of that. That's on that piece of paper too, on the back of the teaching cert.
Yeah, but James, I don't know how it is out there over there where you're at, but I know of, and was I there? Did I see it firsthand? No. But have I heard many stories about teachers with students and not, let me repeat this, not really get in trouble. They are forced to resign.
I know multiple
Every
teachers that got in trouble for stuff like that, and they got forced to resign and didn't get turned in.
And you come on a podcast and say some funny stuff off the cuff, not, we're just being funny like we are right now. And you are forced out and have to go through hell. I don't appreciate it. Now I'm being real. Now I'm not, I do I appreciate these teachers and coaches and stuff around here, and you start talking about somebody and I get it. Not everything you hear is true. It's kind of like the podcast we did, your words were read out to somebody. They read them, some funny things that you said. And if they would have listened to the podcast, they would have known that you didn't mean it that way. The person that got mad initially knew that you didn't, knew that it was not that big of a deal. But when you read it, it's a lot worse, than it really was. But then you've got stories about teachers and coaches with these, doing what they ain't supposed to be doing, should be in prison. And they go through the same thing you went through. They get fired. They don't lose their teaching nothing. They get to,
they don't get turned in.
They get to go coach somewhere else. They get to go teach somewhere else. And like I said, when you bring up a couple of these stories, they're like, oh yeah, but what about what's his face or what's her face? He was doing the same thing, and he's still, 20 years later or 15 years later, he's still, teaching or coaching or and I'm like, well, surely it didn't really happen then.
Well,
and they're like, well,
the thing around here is like some of the teachers that know me. I guess the good thing is like it never really got talked about, so a lot of people know what happened. So like some of my friends that are teachers around here that I knew for years, they know I stopped being a teacher. They don't know why. They have no clue. And they'll talk to me, and all of them are like, yeah, I just can't wait to get out of here. I got X amount of years before I can retire. I'm just playing the game. This is what they say to me. And I'm like, you should be saying this stuff. Trust me. And I'm not going to say their names or anything because it's their truths. It's not my truth to tell.
The reality of the story is maybe maybe the principal or whoever could have pulled you in and said, hey man, so and so, sent me this link and to this podcast, and is there any way you can just get them to take it down? And maybe don't joke about that stuff or whatever. Maybe don't say that anymore. And that should have been the very end of it. Period.
It is what it is, though. I can't control what they do.
Right. But it all worked out.
Yeah, I'm happier. My wife's happier. My family's happier.
You're making more money.
Making a lot more money.
Money's not everything. I understand that.
No.
Happiness is. A happier family is as well.
Yeah. Like I'm not coaching until 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. I'm home at a decent time.
But coaches like to coach, man. So I know that's got to be probably the biggest downside.
Yeah, I miss coaching, but at the same time, like I know I'm never going to be able to coach. That's the other thing we were going to talk about, the coaching thing that I didn't tell you about yet.
Okay.
So one of my friends got a position as a head coach, volleyball coach, in one of the schools in the district. He reached out to me asking me if I would coach with him. And I basically said, hey, I don't know if I'm rehireable. And he goes, what do you mean? I said, it didn't end well. I don't think they'll be willing to hire me back. I would love to. He really wants me to coach with him. So he's like, well, we'll talk to the district. I was like, yeah, you talk to him, but I'm pretty sure I'm not rehireable. So, I mean, people do ask. Last year I got asked.
Is it the same people
that's in charge of the school?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it'd be the same people you'd have to deal with.
Well, it's a different
That would-
school. It's a different
would-
school, but same district.
I'm just saying the person that would hire you is the same person that fired you or
No.
Okay, so I think you're rehireable.
No,
And
because
if
HR kind of told me that in an email once, that they're not interested in employing me ever again. Didn't come out and say it like that, but I got the gist of it.
I have to believe that if this podcast is the only thing, which it is, it was taken out of context. And how could you not be rehireable? I don't get it.
I don't live up to the standards that they want to have at their district. I'm being, I'm
guess.
I mean, I'm trying to see it their way, if that makes sense. But I know last year, another district, like another school within the district, they wanted me to help them with track, and I kind of had to say the same thing to them. Like, I don't think I don't think so. Don't think it's going to work out.
I think if you want to do it, you should go for it. That's what I think. And I think that whoever interviews you will see that, I think you just get out in front of it and tell them the story.
Well,
tell them what happened.
Well, we have
Say, this is what happened. I went on a podcast. I said this, and
we have a thing called, it's a co-sponsorship. It's called a boot camp. The name of the city, boot camp. It's like a fitness club, ran by an old PE teacher, and that's been here for a long time. He's retired now.
PE coach.
Yeah, he is actually on the school board, and me and him work like this together. And I don't think he knows what happened.
I would tell him.
I'm not going to do that.
Dude, you didn't do anything wrong. You did not do anything wrong in the sense of this happening.
But yeah, because we've talked numerous times.
We're on the podcast talking about it right now.
Yeah, me and him talked numerous times, and he's never brought it up. And he runs a fitness boot camp for residents of the city and it's co-sponsored program, so we help him out.
He probably does know, and probably the person that told him is probably the person that don't like you. And when he told him, he was like, "Really? That's stupid. Get out of my face."
I don't know. I just don't think he knows, but you might be right. You never know.
Anyways.
Yep.
All right, let's wrap it up. Anything else? You said you had a story to tell me that I didn't know.
That was it.
No, you told me that story.
People ask me to coach.
You told me the gist of it.
Yeah.
Well, but you had another story to tell me. And I remember I said I'll forget.
And I forgot.
Oh well.
I'm sure you'll come
think of it.
We got to get a notebook, and when I tell you a story and you laugh, you just got to write it down.
Yeah.
I do have a lot of funny stories, because I did go to a Catholic college. Remember?
Oh, you did? Well, give me one funny story. We're at 1 hour and 55 minutes, so let's get one funny story in, and we'll wrap it up.
So we were at a party. I think it was after cross country season, like our wrap up party. And there's a place that just serves hot dogs, different types of hot dogs. You got sauerkraut, you got chili, you got cheese, you got all these different. It's called Yesterdog in East Grand Rapids, Michigan. Well, me and my buddies all went there, and we were going to get hot dogs. It's like 2:30 in the morning. We should have just went to bed. You know that old
Nothing good happens after midnight.
The How I Met Your Mother thing. I think about this all the time when I hear that from How I Met Your Mother. So we go there, and it's hot dogs. My friend Adam, who's got a PhD in like biochemistry. He's like a smart dude from LSU. He ordered 4 fellatios, and we got kicked out. We got banned for a month, all of us. He ordered them, but we all got banned.
Damn. Your face is funny right now because you're still pissed off about getting banned for that month.
They were so good. You have like 8 to 10 beers, and you're like feeling great in college.
At 2:30 in the morning, though.
2:30 in the morning, you want nothing better but some like hot dogs, like chili dogs, man, with some cheese. So
you sit down and order?
No, you walk up to the counter, you can order them, and then
did you at least get yours first before you got banned?
No, he was the first. And we did not know he was going to do that.
Who's working at 2:30 in these? I would think it would be some young girl or some young dude that would think it was funny, but they didn't think it was funny.
No, it was a dude, and he did not think it was funny. He was very, very, very rude to us.
Really?
And I was like, dude, I didn't say anything. I said, I didn't say anything. He said it.
He banned y'all for a month.
So then we had to go to Cheddar.
Oh, yeah. Well, he got you a burger?
Yeah. It wasn't that big Buford.
Dude, 4 fellatios. It's right out the door.
There was 4 of us, so maybe that's why he thought we were all part of it, but we were not part of it. We didn't even know it was going to happen.
Joel bust out laughing when he said it.
Well, I was in shock at first. I was like, what? Because you know my dry sense of humor. I was like, what did he just say? And then I like look at him. He's like smirking.
That's why this story is so funny, man. Because if I told this story, I don't think it'd be that funny. But you telling the story with your dry sense of humor and standing there, never in a million years would you do this.
I was like,
I would.
I was like, what did you just say? And he was my college roommate. And I was like,
did he act like that normally?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
He had the poop bowl, which
oh my gosh,
so we went to one of the houses. I don't remember who. I think it was like the basketball team's house or something, because all the teams had their own houses off campus.
Mm-hmm.
And he took a measuring cup out of the kitchen and pooped in it, left it in the bathroom in a
in
a cabinet.
And this dude's a biochemist now.
Yeah, and the next day there was a message. Because it was the AOL Instant Messenger back then.
Did y'all get kicked out? Did y'all get banned from there for a month?
No, but the guy said, for whoever left this, like on his like away message, said, whoever left this in the cup of poop it called for 2 cups, not 1. The recipe called, that's what the basketball player said on his, I was like, oh, God. And I knew he did it because he told me when we were leaving.
But you were thinking maybe he didn't.
No, I knew he did it.
And then that confirmed it.
Because he pooped in a bowl and put it right outside the walkway of our dorm one day, and he called it the poop bowl.
Where's this guy now?
He just got married at the age of 40.
Do you stay in touch?
Oh yeah.
You'll still joke about that stuff?
Yeah. I can write him right now, and he'd probably respond right away with some funny, clever thing about it.
Man, well, tell this guy to watch the podcast. We talked about him on here.
Yeah. The fellatio thing's pretty funny too. Yeah.
Just thinking of the look on your face.
I was like,
and the guy was like, "Get the hell out of here!"
Then he starts cussing and swearing and screaming at us and get the fuck out before I call the cops. I'm like, Jesus.
Talking about hot dogs. I'm hungry. I haven't eaten dinner.
You got to do that. You got to do that.
Eat dinner?
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But you were pressing me, and I was trying to get things ready, and I was like, all right, I'm getting everything ready, and then I'll eat some dinner real quick, but you were like 2 hours. I'm like, dude, it takes a long time to get this thing set up.
But it's been worth it, right?
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah, for sure.
I'm sure I got more stories. I just gotta think of them.
Well, write them down or something.
I have a friend he's a lawyer in Michigan that I could tell you some stories about him that we got to save it though. I have a friend that's a coach at a college. He got some stories on him.
Coach at a college.
No, not gonna tell you his name, or the college, but it's a D1. It's a D1 university, and he's the head coach.
Dang, got some funny stories on him, huh?
Oh yeah, and I still talk to these people all the time.
Well, write them down. Let's do this again soon.
Yeah, I could be when you need entertainment. I don't know. Probably no one's watching this.
Well, they will when I put it out.
I guess I'll have to watch the.
Maybe not the live version, but
I'll have to watch the Facebook group.
I don't know if it's live on Facebook. I'll find it if it is. But anyways, all right, James, thanks for coming on and telling the story. And
Redemption Sweet.
I can't put the original podcast out, correct?
I wouldn't.
You wouldn't if you were me.
I don't need to live that.
No, I'm kidding. I thought about going back in it and finding some good things in there, but no. Or maybe it's deleted. Maybe it's deleted forever.
Let's just have it in the back. I don't need to lose my teaching cert because you popped that thing out.
I'm absolutely not going to do that to you. But send me some money.
Yeah, I will.
To be sure. Yeah. Cash App.
Cash App, huh?
Are you racing?
I probably will race a little bit.
Well, let me know what race you're going to race, and I may run it. I'm sure Matt's racing too.
Matt's on right now. He's on Twitch right now.
Okay, well, I'll have to go watch. But or if you get on Discord with him, I don't know if he's in Discord or not, but let me know.
I will.
I Don't Drink Coffee podcast. James Jones drinking the body armor.
Ryan Blaney sponsorship.
Ryan Blaney. I like Ryan Blaney. All right, man.
Later.
I'm out. Holla. Hey, don't leave yet.